What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Naia Lax Updates. How are we doing today, Tucker?
Doing great. It's warm in Dubuque, Iowa. And by warm, I mean it's 52 degrees and windy. Shorts weather, folks. It's amazing. And I should also add that we get to play lacrosse tomorrow, and there's no snow on the field. So that's wonderful. We get to see the Cougars of Columbia tomorrow at 2 p.m. here in Dubuque. And now it's just rest, recover, prep, and podcast. That's where we are.
That's all we need.
You? How was the week for you? You know, was it eventful? We watched a lot of lacrosse. Any major life takeaways?
Just a busy week, a lot of different emotions, ups and downs, Didn't have any high school games this week, so that was kind of enjoyable. Can't lie.
I was a level right there, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, last week we played 2 of the top 10 teams in Georgia, so a week off was much needed.
Yep. Can't blame you there. That's good. That's good. You got a week off. You got to watch some lacrosse, and we have a massive amount. This might be one of the biggest weeks just in games being played.
I know.
So let's boogie. Let's do it. Okay. First game on the docket. Ottawa took on Midland. Ottawa comes away with a 12-7 win in that game. I think that's an interesting game, honestly, as far as KCAC goes. If you guys haven't been listening to the podcast so far or following John on Twitter, the KCAC is all over the place, and really all of NAI lacrosse is all over the place. Ottawa seems to be emerging as a pretty good powerhouse team this year in the KCAC. They have been historically for a while, and this is kind of, I think, a year for them to step up even more so. Midland being a third-year program, I believe now, second or third. My buddy Billy is the coach there. They actually, I think, played well in this game. I think putting up 7 goals against Ottawa and holding Ottawa to 12 is good considering the score that Ottawa has been putting up against other teams recently. So Midland is not a team to sleep on, I would say, this year in the KCAC. They've proven that through several games now, and Ottawa, even more so, is positioning themselves to make a good postseason run from all the signs that we're seeing right now. Anything you want to add to that KCAC matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably a little bit closer than I anticipated, honestly. Just as you said, the Ottawa offense in particular has been lights out. I mean, I don't think I thought they were going to put up 20, but I kind of thought they'd be in the 15 to 17 kind of range, putting up goal-wise.
I would agree. And I think it's just as we develop in the year, especially in the Midwest and in this conference, the clear leader is definitely St. Ambrose. We'll touch on that later. There's no doubt that St. Ambrose is the clear leader right now in the conference. But the rest of the conference really is, as the weeks go on, seeming to be wide open. And I think Ottawa continues to prove that they are in a position where they want to assert their dominance, for lack of better terms. So we saw that here. Midland showing monumental growth throughout the years. Awesome to see that. And we can move on to a WAC and independent game in Dearborn and Mount Vernon Nazarene. Dearborn 14, MVNU 6. Dearborn's kind of all over. I don't know. I would love to be like, oh, this is exactly how I feel about Dearborn. But I really, they're the one team right now in my mind that I'm like, if I see any score of them against another team, I don't even feel that confident in commenting on what happened because it's just a little bit all over the place. I did hear from a buddy at Mount Vernon that they are not low numbers, but less than they had anticipated, and several injuries, it sounded like. So maybe that related to this. I do think that I expected this score to be a little bit closer, just looking at how Mount Vernon was playing the season prior. Again, who knows? Maybe Dearborn just put the pedal to the metal here. Maybe Dearborn's just stepping back into the game. I'm not really sure what went on in this game. Any takeaways for you?
I just kind of think Dearborn's at the position where they're not really ready to compete with like the upper half of the league, but they're probably a step above most of kind of the lower level teams, if that makes sense. Because they probably have, it seems like they have 2, maybe 3 kids on offense who are pretty solid, but I believe all of them are freshmen and sophomores. So Just needed to develop a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Not a whole lot to be said here, so we'll move on. This one is unfortunate for the brand. It's unfortunate for Naia Lacrosse. Trine 16, Taylor 8. Trine, I believe, is in Indiana. They are a Division III school. The guy who used to co-host the Going Offsides podcast with Zoroya was the head coach, or is the head coach at Trine. Interesting fact there. And Trine is traditionally a pretty good Division III program that is definitely getting better every single year. They have their own hockey rink in the campus. They're very well athletically supported, I should say. I don't know what I expected from this game. I think I knew to some degree that Trine was a better program, but I didn't know by how much. This score kind of, I think, shows that, 16-8, that there was a little bit more of a margin than I had expected. I'm not going to say Taylor is as good as I expected them to be this year. I think Taylor is still struggling in some areas right now that reflected in a game like this. So that's kind of my take on this one. Anything for you?
I'm pretty similar. I knew Trine would probably win, but just didn't really know how much. I probably would have said maybe the 5-7 range. I think 8 goals. I mean, nothing too crazy on this one.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, moving down the line. See, this is kind of an interesting one. And you guys are going to be like, oh, Tucker thinks the goal margin's interesting. It is. Weber 23.7. All we're going to say is Point can score goals. That's the lesson in my mind of this thing here, is that Weber's got like 7 goalies, right? They got depth in the goalie position. Point is a team that has been struggling to get wins and be competitive in games recently. Weber is a team that is on the up and up and up. And I think even though Point lost this game, putting up 7 goals against Weber is nothing just to shake off. I think that's important to see that there is development happening with Point, and there's positives happening in the program. Weber, again, continues to get better and better with that 23-goal score right there. You can tell that. My take is that even in a loss, there are positives for Point as a program right now. Anything for you?
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's kind of when me and my brother went on the recruiting visit to Point last week. One of the points the head coach was making is that it's the first year he's taken over the program, and he's actually pretty encouraged by what he's seeing on the field. Like, the wins and losses aren't really there, but at least in the first half, they're fairly competitive, which is a step up from where they were last season.
I agree. I think about where, my college lacrosse experience, excuse me, I can't talk tonight. My college lacrosse experience has been an interesting one in the sense that, I've spent 3 seasons here because of COVID at Clarke, and we've kind of maintained where we've always been. We haven't really shot up. In some games, in some situations, we've done big improvements. We've stayed steady. We've, been where we were from when I got here. But I look at a program like Point, and I look at how much they're improving just in one season. And it is so encouraging to me. And, huge kudos to that coach, because it is clearly heading in the right direction, which, just to see that a program is heading in the right direction does a huge amount for recruits, for parents. There's sign of growth, which I think is the most important thing that we're seeing from Point. And really it is. It's an important thing psychologically as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one.
All right, moving down the line. This is, again, another great little thought bubble here. Benedictine 17, Midland 10. Do we think that Midland is a lot better than we expected, or Benedictine is just meh this year? Because I'm a little mixed. I feel a little bit of both in this one.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with you on this one. And here's my takeaway. Benedictine is about what I thought they were preseason, where I thought they were probably the 3rd or 4th best team in the KCAC. But I'd say their offense is a lot better than what I thought it would be. It's still very solid, but I think their defense is worse than I thought it was going to be. And then Midland as a whole is a little bit better than I thought they would be.
Well said. No, I think that's completely my take as well, is that Benedictine is an offensive team, and they win games because they're putting goals in, not because they're, keeping a large margin with good defense. And it's nothing against the defense, on the Benedictine side. It's just, that's by design. That's how their team seems to play. And I think Midland gets better game by game and closes that gap and that margin. I also think, kind of the storyline emerging right now from the KCAC, which I'm obviously a part of, is that St. Mary is no longer in contention for the playoffs because they forfeited a conference game. So you take them out of conference contention, and it's nothing against Morningside, guys. Nothing against you. I'm not saying you're a bad team or anything, but the way things are shaping out right now, those are the two teams out. And that means that the rest of the conference is that much tighter and that much smaller, considering that Ambrose is above all at the very top right now. So the conference layout is completely changing in the KCAC, and I think Midland is positioning themselves to be in a good spot. That's my lesson of that 30-second rant that I just had about the KCAC.
Yeah. While we're here, I know it's a little bit kind of a weird topic in general, but since you did bring up St. Mary, I will address the tweet that was sent out from the head coach. I guess I should say former head coach.
John Dial.
Dial tweeted out that he had been let go from St. Mary. I think that was last night. So that was a bit surprising because I think he said they had signed 12 guys. So, I mean, anytime you're looking to rebuild a program and you have that many guys signed, it seems like a bit of a weird time. And I don't think they had played a game yet this season. I think they forfeited one, and then this happened. So
I am really curious on this one. Full disclosure, I always really liked Coach Dial. I think he stepped into the program at a little bit of a hard time and had some hardship ahead of where the program was going. A lot of factors in place. You have a player last year who was a powerhouse player who was there for his 5th year. He leaves, the dynamic changes, all those seniors who were there for a 5th year leave. There was a lot going on that the expectations, I think, may have been set a little bit too high for Coach Dial at St. Mary. Again, I don't know what was going on in the inside of things. I know he was very good for the growth of NAI lacrosse and was a good voice for NAI lacrosse, so I can appreciate that and thank him for that. Again, don't know the inner story or anything that could have happened, but from an outside perspective, this one seems strange. I could have seen it being like, hey, we're going to neutrally part ways at the end of the year, but to fire him outright before a game has even been played this year is a lot of red flags. It's just super weird. It doesn't put their program, in my opinion, in a very good spot right now, even more so than they were already in a bad spot. So I feel for the guys on that team. Hopefully something is being figured out. I know I played them pretty quickly here, and I know to have a game canceled and eliminate you from conference contention is that much tougher as well. So there's a lot going on in the St. Mary, Kansas program right now.
Okay, we'll go back to making the
yeah. Okay. So Benedictine Midland, we've kind of covered that there about what we feel like. I like your comment on this next note here. Mount St. Joseph 11, Cleary 10, and you put a so close to first win frowny face. Yes, that is my takeaway as well.
Like, I had a couple head coaches text me like, Cleary's about to win a game, and I was like, oh man, for real? And then I checked and it was over and they lost, and I was like, well, damn.
I would also like to add, who the heck is this Mount St. Joseph team? Listen, I know they're D3. I believe they're in Pennsylvania. I think they're newer because I'm not familiar with them from when I was getting recruited, and a lot of teams are putting the whoop on them. And unfortunately, they beat Cleary. That's the unfortunate takeaway here. But the positive, once again, is Cleary scored 10 goals and almost beat a team and is showing signs of improvement. I know right now, guys, if you're in these programs or you're an outsider looking at these programs, it's easy to take the conclusion of, oh, we should cancel the program, or, oh, it's not making leaps and bounds and, big wins. That's not going to happen, guys. In college lacrosse at every level, it takes time to grow a good team. And especially it takes time under the same coach. You have to consider that a lot of these programs, their retention for coaching is not good. And when a coach leaves, it's like back to square one. Everything restarts. So keep that in mind, that both these programs in Point and in Cleary are new coaching staffs trying to get their program going in the right direction. So we're seeing positive things from both of them. And yes, Cleary almost did get their first win. So I'm kind of hyped for that. I can tell you that. Okay, moving on. We saw Lords play. we saw my good buddy Cody Carson with a little pregame post the other week, and I saw a few pregame posts, I believe, this week. So good for Cody. Lords, though, Lords put the whoop on St. Andrews. St. Andrews, I love you guys, but I'm just going to say that. That was fun to say because we didn't know what the heck was going to go on with Lords this year. Lords beat St. Andrews 16-5. What are your thoughts on this game? And we really had no idea about Lords, which makes this even more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, going in, I thought Lords would probably win, but I thought it would be very competitive, especially with St. Andrews kind of – most of the AAC is now kind of in the middle of their season. I know it sounds a little crazy, but that's just kind of where we are game-wise. And then Lords hadn't played a game yet. So going in, I probably gave at least like the edge of readiness to St. Andrews, but clearly Lords had other things in store for them.
Yeah, I think Lords is going to be pretty decent this year. And I think, once again, we're looking at a conference that's a very unusual situation. The WAC is all over the freaking place. So Lords is fresh. They could be putting themselves in a good spot to do some damage pretty quickly here. They dealt with a cancellation due to the bus or the van, as we know, the iconic MBU van. So Lords St. Andrews, good game there. Happy to see Lords has started playing and that those pregame Instagram posts have started back up again. Cody, you know who you are. Moving on down the line. This is fun. Okay, I don't mean this is fun because I have close ties to this team. Mobap 17, Moval 2. My boy Hines gets his coaching debut. Shout out to you, Hines. You know, love you, man. Happy you got that. This was kind of an interesting one to me, though, in watching the pace of play and how things went. For those who don't know, Moval's in an interesting situation right now. They have like 5 players, 4 or 5 that have not played lacrosse before, and 2 are from Spain. One is a former center for college basketball. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of storylines here. I'm happy they got to start their season and play. Mobap, I know, was in a similar situation where they just had a game canceled because of illnesses and a bus. So what are your thoughts from this game? I think your note here about the benches telling the stories is the most accurate thing about this entire game.
Yeah, I mean, I flip it on. It's a pretty close game at the start, and I'm looking right at the sideline to see what kind of we got going on, just because we've been watching the Webbers and the Reinhardts and Indiana Techs of the world, seeing 15, 20 guys on benches, and I see 2 historic NAIA programs with respectively 4 guys on a bench, and I think one was looked like he was probably injured. And then on the Missouri Valley side, there were just 2 guys on the bench. So it's like I knew it was going to be like that going in, but just seeing it live made it kind of sad for me, honestly. Just like because when I was in college, like those 2 teams were like very respected. And the one thing I'd say is it seems like even though the rosters number-wise are equal, the talent is pretty diverse. Just Mobap may only have 13, 14 guys, but I guarantee you it seems like all of them have played before, and they even have like quite a few pretty solid returners. So they can do some stuff if they can manage to stay like fresh and withstand injuries and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mobap gets better game by game, and they, I think they're kind of getting back into their routine. I play them this Thursday, so I'll get to see them. I'm excited for them and what they're kind of moving towards this year. I know that it's probably a little bit of a rebuild year. Their numbers are a little bit lower than historic, Mobap teams have been. I do recall playing them last year, though, and them having deceivingly low numbers and having very good players regardless of the low numbers, which I think goes a really, really long way. So low numbers, it's difficult at times. You turn a stream on, but as we saw in this game, it really just depends on the talent and experience of the low numbers on each team, which is an important factor to take in when you're looking at a program. So we can move. Yeah,
that would just be, I guess, if we're looking at it in terms of like a battle for Missouri, so to speak. 'Cause I think those are the only 2 out there, but
Columbia.
They're interesting. Oh well, okay. The battle of the other teams not named Columbia in Missouri, but it's interesting because. So Missouri Valley obviously lost this one pretty bad, but they might arguably be in a little bit more stable of a position where they have a coach hired who loves the program, where Missouri Baptist has already kind of announced that the interim coach is not coming back after the season. I don't know if y'all But so that's just another interesting nugget to take away from it.
That's a good point. Once again, we look at factors aside from scores in the stability of programs here, which is it goes further than we think. This game was just irritating me, to be honest with you, because the Kaiser stream was bad. Like that stream was like watching some EDM concert. I was having the same issue watching the Moval Mobap game while working out at Planet Fitness, because Planet Fitness cannot invest in good Wi-Fi. Planet Fitness, if you're watching this, get better Wi-Fi. Okay, we're moving on. Siena Heights 15, Benedictine 8. What the heck is going on with Siena Heights?
I mean, you texted me about this one, and this is no dig at Siena Heights at all. But the one thing we've kind of said over the years is they just got to get a little bit more consistency, because you'll watch them play a team where maybe they're like underdogs by 1, and then they'll lose by like 4 or 5. And then you'll sit there going into a game like, okay, Benedictine might beat them by a couple, and then they just absolutely smack them. And the big thing for me, like takeaway wise for Siena Heights, is they actually have a third and fourth like good scorer, which like doesn't always show up. Usually it's just Gallagher and Potter. And I still think those guys obviously did their thing, but there were a couple other guys who put up like 3 or 4 goals. So if they can get that going game to game, that would be big for them.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know about Benedictine. I'm just confused. And once again, the streakiness of Siena Heights strikes again. That was a lot of S's. Okay, moving down the line. T-Dub and Concordia in a freaking close game, man. This was tooth and nail. T-Dub takes the win 10-9 over Concordia, but I know this about this game a little more than I did. I didn't get to watch much of it or really even follow much of this.
I don't think stream for this one. I think this is the one where I was just watching the live stats on it. And T-Dub kind of got a big lead at one point. It was like 8-3, and the next thing I see, it's like 8-8. I'm like, what's going on? Are y'all like gonna pull this out or nah? And then they ended up pulling it out, but it was a lot closer. And one thing to take a note of was they didn't dominate in faceoffs this time. I was very surprised at that, because I mean, going in, that kid was at like 85% for the season. And one thing I heard was they let it get a little chippy in the faceoff area, where a little bit more physical than usual. And I guess T-Dub was kind of the unfortunate in that aspect.
Yeah, that with those, knowing those two teams, that does make sense to me. That they would get a little chirpy with each other. I'm not surprised. Well, here's one that's an interesting one we discussed prior week. Kind of looking forward to. Weber 13, Lawrence Tech 10. They were playing, I believe, at Weber, so they got a little good weather down there with the nice little water view in the background. I think this is a very important win for Weber, because I think it continues to show that they are a team that is getting better and better and better. And I think a team that could do pretty dang well in the playoffs as well. That's what I think we're seeing here. And Lawrence Tech, again, they were kind of a question mark going into the year. There wasn't a lot of games recently, but we did see early on that they're a good team. And I think this score probably reflects that even more so. But Weber, again, comes away with a big win.
Yeah, and I think once we saw all of Lawrence Tech's games this week, it made a little bit more sense. This one was pretty close. I probably had it Weber winning by probably 6 or 7 going into it. The big thing for this one was Lawrence Tech just wasn't able to stop Q and Jackson. And if they get rolling, it's really tough to deal with all the depth that Weber has.
No kidding. Yeah, that's the takeaway here, is that if one guy goes down for Weber, there's 7 more in his spot ready to fill his spot. They are being run numbers wise very much like a Division I program, which makes sense understanding the history of their head coach. That's not really surprising that much. But the fact that they're able to accomplish the recruiting they are at the NAIA level so far is incredible. But being in Florida and having a waterfront turf field doesn't hurt the recruiting, I'm sure. So that's kind of an important one there as well. Any last thoughts kind of between that one?
Just kind of going forward, like you got to stop one of them, Q or Jackson. Like if you're letting both put up 4 or 5 goals, you're not beating them.
That's a good point. Yeah, that really is. That's the make it or break it type thing right there. Okay, this is one that, cover your ears, you're gonna hurt in this one. Reinhardt loses in double overtime to Kaiser. They've been dethroned from the undefeated potential of the season. This was one heck of a game. This is the game that we're referring to was like watching an EDM concert, because my gosh, I don't know what was going on with that stream. Yes, I was at Planet Fitness watching while biking, but that's unrelated because the stream was crazy. I know that for a fact.
It was bad, but the stream survived overtime, and I will give it credit for that because
100% agree.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny because obviously I'm not really like affiliated with Reinhardt anymore as an alumni, so I'm like, I don't care if they win or lose. But I'll be honest, when this one was in the fourth quarter and Reinhardt goes down by 2 with like a minute to go, like I can hear my heart in my head, like just like pounding. I'm like, dang, this is not a good feeling. And then it was pretty crazy because they were down by 2 with like 45 seconds to go. And I was like, well, this is done. And I walk away from my TV for a second, and then I hear that they scored. I'm like, okay. And then I see that it was like something like a cross check after the fact. So they got ball and man up. And then Bousquet scored, I think, with like 5 seconds left. I'm like, all right, it's going to overtime. This is weird. And then they were still man up going into overtime. So I think they started with the ball. So I was like, all right, they're going to win right here. Opening shot, it's done. Didn't happen. Cole George played a great game. He had like 17 saves. He was going off. And then Kaiser gets ball. Reinhardt makes a good save. We're heading to double overtime. Kaiser gets another penalty, and Reinhardt starts with it man up. I'm thinking it's done again. Cole George says, not today, Reinhardt. And Kaiser finally gets the ball and ends it.
Yeah, that was – God, I was just watching this like, what is going on? Like, it was nuts. It was such an intense game. Kudos to Kaiser. I know that's a big win. That's the first win against Reinhardt in program history for them. It's monumental, we should say. But my gosh, that was an exciting game to watch. I was just like, this is unreal.
That it was insane. Like everybody was saying that was one of the most crazy games they'd ever seen in NAIA history. And it's definitely up there. Just you thought Reinhardt was done for, they make the rally, and then Kaiser puts the nail in the coffin. So
yep.
That.
That's a good point. Yeah, Anyway, crazy game. We won't really try to visually describe this for you because you can go watch it on Kaiser's streaming network. Maybe it's a better stream recorded than we were experiencing. Either way, watch the overtime. What was that?
I said warning on that one.
Yeah. Good point. All right, we'll fly through the rest of this Reinhardt stuff here. Stop me if there's anything good. Reinhardt crushes Lawrence Tech 24-7. Not a big surprise there. We can move past that one. Now, this is an interesting one. Today, I believe this was today, Reinhardt took on Madonna at Spalding University in Louisville, Kentucky. This was the first game played in men's lacrosse at Spalding University on their new field. They're a D3 program starting up next year. Shout out Spalding. But wow, we didn't know what was going on with Madonna, and the fact that they lost by 5 goals to Reinhardt in an early game for them is just mind blowing. Like, what are we seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, they played really well, and they actually had it. Like, I thought they were going to win the game probably until 3 minutes into the fourth quarter. Reinhardt kind of, I don't want to say step it up a notch because that kind of takes away a little bit from Madonna, but Reinhardt really got the ball rolling late, especially in the fourth quarter. I think they went on like a 7-0 run to close it out or something. And it was really just J.R. Sess would win a faceoff, Reinhardt would score, and then they kind of got the ball back. It's kind of what the deal was there in the fourth, but it was a very chippy game. I don't know if you saw that clip I posted earlier, but
yeah, I did.
There was a point where the Reinhardt guy is dodging on crease, gets a helmet-to-helmet hit, flag goes down, the pole who trucked him scoops up the ball, and then all of a sudden he gets a helmet-to-helmet hit and goes flying through the air. So it was one of those games, and I got to be honest, we kind of knew that going in it was going to be like that probably.
Yeah, I would say that, and I think even more so. I'm like here wondering, is Madonna back to being a powerhouse? Like, even though they lost that game, that score says a lot. Are they in a good spot this year? And I just don't know. I think I'd like to think that Madonna is back to their old business, because I'm like, that would restore some sense of NAI lacrosse structure, just a little bit of it right there. But I guess we'll
Yeah,
see.
I think they are. I don't think they're necessarily all the way back. I still have some questions about the midfield, but moving rush to attack and then getting Killar back obviously is big. So attack's very solid. Goalie's outstanding. One final note on Reinhardt was the one issue that most people are kind of saying is they're struggling a little bit in the goalie area. I looked at the standings kind of like for stat wise, and I think 28 teams have played a game so far, and they are 23rd in save percentage at like 43%, 45%,
Wow.
which I mean,
It's not low. It's not really low.
not terrible. Obviously, I think 50% is like considered average, somewhere in that range. 60 is like really good. So it's not terrible, but it's not, as some people were kind of like joking, it's not Matt Webb-esque. We're not sitting there at 70% saying like take your best shot. So it's one of those things. And I know the goalie's a very young kid, so I'm sure he will only get better. But it's kind of an interesting situation where last season he was Reinhardt's, I think, number 3 goalie. The top 2 transfer out, or graduate, I should say. They get Tyler Queen in. Queen goes down with injuries. So they're kind of making the best out of a bad situation where maybe this kid was more so expected to be the starter next season. He's playing a little bit earlier than expected.
That's a good point. Yeah, I agree. I think it's, and I mean, I guess the good news as well about the Reinhardt situation is that whatever's happening on the defensive end, their offense is really strong, and I think if it came down to it, could carry the team if needed. Which I think that's the big takeaway there. This game, though, this next game, I think is revealing in a lot of ways, and I don't know that it's surprising. I think the margin is surprising. Indiana Tech took on University of Cumberlands. I believe this was Cumberland's senior night, and Tech wins 13-5. You have to think, though, the important thing to look at here is if Cumberland's scheduled their senior night on this day and was hyping it up, you have to think that they were going to beat Indiana Tech. Like, that was in their minds. And this was completely script flipped, different type of situation. The margin was getting greater and greater throughout the game. And I was like, what is going on? That's a big win for Indiana Tech, but even more confusing for the NAI lacrosse scene.
Yeah, I mean, going in, I remember I picked Cumberlands. I thought it was going to be probably a 2-goal win for Cumberlands. But I mean, yeah, Indiana Tech just really put it on them. I was very surprised. I mean, Cumberlands dominated the faceoffs as expected. The one thing I'd say is there weren't many transition opportunities, or at least they didn't really look to take advantage of them off of the faceoffs, and then kind of settled offense. They had a lot of turnovers. I think they were close to around 30 for the day. So that's not really the Cumberlands we're used to seeing. And then Indiana Tech was just very efficient. Anytime they had the ball, they're getting quality looks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just think, I guess, Cumberlands is good. Indiana Tech is good. We questioned how good Indiana Tech was early after their loss to Ambrose. And I think we had that a little wrong. I think it's really just that Ambrose is a really good team and that really, Tech is a good team. I think the difference in those two is simply that, and we were reading it backwards. So I think as time goes on, we're gonna see the difference in these levels of teams. But I do think that I think Cumberlands will get more wins this year. I think they will probably make the conference tournament. I think they're in a good spot still. It's a 1-loss situation. You lose on senior night like that, I would have to think that lights a fire under you. So we'll see how they kind of return and move back in the following games. Your next comment, which is perfect because my gosh, this lines up well with the last one. This is the words of John. Ambrose is absolutely elite. Yeah, that's what we're seeing. That is definitely what we're seeing. Ambrose 14, William Penn 7, Ambrose 15, Columbia College 8. Those are huge wins in the KCAC book. Like, those are wins that you check off and you're like, we're going to the next one, because you have to think that they were going into these with the mindset they're going to win, as all teams should. But the margins of these two games are very important. What did you see from these two, or what are you seeing, I guess, really from Ambrose as a whole right now?
I mean, they're just beating teams in all three phases of the games. I mean, even more so than just the score was today. Like, I don't have the stats in front of me. I tweeted it earlier. Like, the shot discrepancy, it was like 56 to like 15 at one point in like the third quarter. Ground balls was like the same. It was like 30 to like 10 at one point. Like, they're just smoking teams in every aspect. And I mean, I knew they were going to be probably a top four team this year. I expected that, but it just seems like right now they're the clear cut number one team.
100%. Couldn't agree more. That makes me very excited for the national tournament to see what shakes up. Maybe we'll be live recording from the national tournament. NAI, if you're listening to this, get your boys on a trip out there and we'll come
Maybe
record some lacrosse.
Yeah, I don't know, something commentary.
I don't know. NAI lacrosse fans, let the NAI know that we need to be at this tournament, given the feedback and the juicy details. But that does it for our rundown of games that happened. I know that was about a 50-minute rundown of a lot of games. Now we can move on to some picks. Any thoughts before I move into the pick segment?
Yeah, I want to cover one more game. I think I forgot to put it in there. Lawrence Tech upset Kaiser this week as well.
That makes no sense, but I love it.
Yeah, that was one that I was very, especially against Reinhardt. Completely script flipped on them. I don't know what to make of it, but it happened.
Okay, I'm good with that too, because I don't know what to make of that. That gives me a headache even more so thinking about what the heck is going on in NAI lacrosse right now. Therefore, we can go on to our pick segment. Okay, let's start with tomorrow, the beautiful day of Monday, March 14th. I'm on spring break, guys. I'm enjoying it. I hope other people are on spring break enjoying it right now. Tomorrow, Ottawa is the first game. Ottawa and Tennessee Wesleyan is the first game of the day. There's an interesting thing here. We were talking pre-show about our newfound dislike of Presto Sports, or just not fondness compared to the old format of DAX stats. But looking at this game right now, it says that the location is to be determined. And the game is tomorrow at 1:00. All the other locations on this are set up and look normal. That game says to be determined. So whether it's being played in Ottawa or it's being played in Athens, Tennessee, I don't know. I don't know. I hope the teams know. Anyway, Ottawa, Tennessee Wesleyan tomorrow, 1:00. Who do you have?
I've been on the T-Dub bandwagon. I'm going to stick with them.
DeMarco times 2 with Ottawa. I'm taking Ottawa in this one. I'll pick KCAC to pick KCAC, and I also think that once again Ottawa gets better game by game. The next game, I think we've mutually agreed not to pick on. We can talk about it for a second. Tomorrow we take on Columbia here at 2:00 at Burroughs Field. The weather is supposed to be remarkable if you're in the Dubuque, Iowa area, which you're probably not. There's lacrosse going on tomorrow, folks. Anyway, we get to take them on at 2:00. This is our home opener and season opener after a week of delays. Finally happening, finally coming through. Couldn't be more excited for this. And my gosh, I'm just glad that it's not freezing. I don't have to wear medical gloves and there's no snow on the ground. That's the positives about this game happening tomorrow. Next, Concordia takes on William Penn at Statesman Community Stadium in Oskaloosa, Iowa. About a 3-hour drive from me. Concordia and William Penn is another game that we are not going to pick on due to John's connections to William Penn, if you guys don't know that. But this will be a good game, guys. If you're looking for an afternoon game to watch, I think this will be a very fun game across the board. That will be live streamed from William Penn, who does a great production on their broadcasting. So if you want to watch a good game with good commentary, 5:00 Eastern, Concordia and William Penn. 6 p.m., Siena Heights takes on Hope College. Hope is a Division III team out of Michigan, not too far from Siena Heights, I believe. We don't really need to pick on that one. There's not too many details there, and it's not an NAI game. Wednesday, March 16th, St. Andrews and Ottawa. This is going to be a cool one. I think it could be an either way type of thing. Who do you have in this one?
For the very reason you said you were picking Ottawa earlier, DeMarco times 2, I'm going with this one.
Agreed. I have Ottawa as well. Wilmington College takes on Tennessee Wesleyan. Wilmington College, I want to say, is D3. They take on T-Dub at 3:00 Eastern on Wednesday. We won't pick that one because it's not a crucial NAI game. This is going to be a cool one. This is one I'm actually looking forward to for a Wednesday matchup. Concordia travels down to Davenport to take on St. Ambrose. Who do you have in this one? I feel confident that I'm going to say St. Ambrose because of how things are going for them. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I don't know if there's a team in the nation right now I would take to beat St. Ambrose. So,
whoa, you're going to get some tweets about that one, man.
I am. You know what? I stand by it right now. They are a good bit better than everybody else at the moment.
I like it. I agree. I do agree. 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, Point takes on LaGrange College. D3, correct?
Yeah, D3.
Okay. We'll stick away from that one as well as not being an NAI matchup. Aquinas takes on Hope College that night, also at 7. Hope College getting those interstate NAI matchups in. I would very much hope that Aquinas comes away with that one. Thursday, March 17th, the first game of the day. There's 2 games on this schedule. Is myself and Clarke taking on Missouri Baptist here at home. This will be a fun one. Supposed to have good weather, good lacrosse night under the lights. Always looking forward to that right there. And then I think this is kind of an important one. As we touched on before, it's not important for conference standings or tournament eligibility. Midland takes on St. Mary. I feel pretty confident that I'm taking Midland in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough just not having played the game. Head coach gets let go going into this one. Like, I'll be happy if this one gets played, and I'll leave it at that one. But I'll take Midland if we're picking it.
I agree. I think that's a good way to say it. Friday, we got a slew of games on Friday. Friday's games are not correct. I'm now realizing that. So apparently Cumberlands has double booked themselves at the exact same time on the exact same day, according to Presto Sports. That would be Kaiser and Cumberlands. Oh, wait a minute. This might be right. Is Cumberlands playing a doubleheader?
There's no way.
This says that Kaiser is playing Cumberlands in North Carolina at 1:00 on Friday. And then below that, it says Cumberlands is playing St. Andrews at 1:00, but St. Andrews is in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So I think this might be a doubleheader type situation. Let me see if there's another game in this.
2 conference games in a day. I would think not. I mean, you got to pull up Cumberland's schedule now.
I'm looking up Cumberland's schedule. If that's the case, I don't know what advice to give in this one.
Yeah, that's got to be a mistake of some sort, I would assume. I mean,
let's see.
That would be the most high thing of all time, if that's true.
Men's lacrosse schedule. Very slow Wi-Fi. Okay. No, they're 1 day difference though, and they are both at St. Andrews. So Kaiser on Friday will take on Cumberlands at St. Andrews, and then St. Andrews will take on Cumberlands at St. Andrews on Saturday. So they're back-to-back days, but they're not back-to-back in the same day. Makes a little bit more sense.
All right, so I guess we'll just pick both of them.
Yeah, so who do you got in the Kaiser Cumberlands matchup?
I got Cumberlands. I think they're gonna bounce back well. I think we're in for a weird year in the AAC where we're gonna see kind of maybe 3 teams with 1 loss at the end of the regular season, where it's just gonna be a lot of chaos. Good luck trying to figure out the seeding for it, but I bounce it back.
I agree. I got Cumberlands as well. Cumberlands, St. Andrews. I am picking Cumberlands.
I got Cumberlands as well. The one thing I will say is it's pretty difficult playing 2 teams like back to back, especially when they're both pretty solid teams. But I still got Cumberlands.
I like it. KCAC matchup back again at Statesman Community in Oskaloosa. Benedictine takes on William Penn. We're not picking this one, but I will tell you guys, if you want an idea of where the KCAC is going, this is an important game for you to watch. It's at 4:00. And again, the stream can be found on the Statesman website. I think this is an important one for how the KCAC sits this year. So 4:00 on Friday. Midland and Moval, 7 p.m. on Friday. I'm taking Midland just the way they've been playing, and they've been pretty consistent in their play so far too.
Yeah, I got Midland as well.
All right. Weber and Dearborn at Detroit Country Day Fieldhouse in Michigan. I'm taking Weber.
Yeah, give me Weber as well. Just too much talent on that team.
Agreed. On to our Saturday matchups. Cleary takes on Trine. I don't think that. Okay. Yeah, I think Trine will win that, but we're not going to pick that one. Not really sure if this is a school, but according to this, Farley Dickinson, is that a school?
Heck
Is
if I
that a
know.
school? Farley Dickinson. It says that Farley Dickinson is Fairleigh Dickinson is taking on SCAD at 1:00.
All right.
I'm Googling this.
Go Bees, I guess. I don't know.
There's no way this is a real place.
I mean, it's on the
Yeah,
schedule.
it is. It's a real place. Fairleigh Dickinson University is a real place. It is a Division III school, and they're the Devils. They're the Fairleigh Dickinson Devils.
There's plenty of jokes to be made at this, but I guess
They
we'll
are
just
not a first year. They have been around since 2009.
Okay. Well,
They're
good luck.
they're in New Jersey. They're in Madison, New Jersey, and SCAD is playing them. I am really confused here. Maybe this is a Presto match, Matt. I don't. Yeah. Go SCAD. Wow. Okay. Mount Vernon, Nazarene, and Taylor in a matchup. They've already met once, I believe, this year. I know that they're meeting again.
I think Taylor won the first one, and
Taylor
I think
won
they
the first one, but not by a lot.
Than I thought they would. I'll take Taylor just because they beat them once.
I'm taking Taylor. I think I agree. Taylor's been pretty consistent on if they win a game, they're going to compete well against that again. This is unique. You don't normally see this happen, kind of teams playing each other twice like that in a year. So I'm going to take Taylor as well, but I wouldn't be shocked if it goes a different way. Shorter plays Point at 4:00 on Saturday. We won't pick that one. That actually might be an interesting game though. I think both teams are in similar spots, to be honest with you, it seems like. And then the game that I really hope happens, Saturday, Morningside and Moval play. I hope this happens for both teams, but if Morningside goes through with the game, that does show hope that the season will continue on for them, because right now we are on a pause. We don't really know what's going on. I'm going to pick Moval on this one. I'm picking Moval.
Okay, I like it. This is a tough one. I mean,
it's a really tough one.
Skill wise, this is pretty even, I'd say. I mean, I'm gonna take Morningside in a slight upset, and they end their season on a positive note, and hopefully that win saves the program.
Wow, you are a fairy tale writer apparently now. Okay, yeah. So that was a good story. No, I agree. That would be really good. I think however it shakes out for either team in this, it's probably going to be a close game, and I think it will be a good game for both teams to be, a part of. And then the last game on Saturday at 5:00 is another important KCAC matchup. Missouri Baptist and St. Ambrose. I'm taking St. Ambrose.
Yeah, we don't really have to talk about that one. I think we're in agreement.
Yep. Sunday, we have 3 games, and we'll wrap the week. Kaiser takes on St. Andrews at 1:00 on Sunday. Okay, that makes sense. So Kaiser, Cumberlands, and St. Andrews are all down at St. Andrews for a 3-day weekend matchup kind of situation. That adds up. So I'm going to take Kaiser in the St. Andrews game. I don't think it would be too shocking if it goes a different direction, or at least, is closer than we think. But I'm going to take Kaiser.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to take Kaiser as well. St. Andrews is definitely a quality up and coming team, but I think when you're playing two teams who are probably a little bit better than you, it's rough when you have to play them in the same week.
Agreed. Definitely agreed there. And then 1:00 on Sunday, Weber takes on Madonna. This one could go differently than we think.
Yeah, I don't know on this one. Like I genuinely don't know.
I'm taking Madonna.
I am too.
Let's do it.
Nervous about it. I mean, nothing would surprise me. I mean, if Weber blew them out, wouldn't shock me. If Madonna blew Weber out, wouldn't shock me. It'll probably be somewhere in the middle.
Definitely wholeheartedly agree on that one. And then lastly, Morningside takes on St. Mary at 1:30 on Sunday.
And the saddest game of the
I don't know. Yeah, it's like we have one team that is out of contention for the playoffs and lost their coach, and another team who is rumored to not be returning next year as a program. That just is that ow. But I don't know. I wouldn't even. I'm not going to make a pick. I'm not going to make a pick because we don't know what's going on with St. Mary. We haven't seen him play, and I don't think it'd be fair to make a pick just under circumstances of like just not knowing.
Here's my pick. Game doesn't happen. There's no way.
Yeah.
One of them will cancel, if not both. I could see this is kind of messed up. Both ADs are typing up emails to send to the other one right now. They're going to get them at the same time announcing they're canceled.
It does. This game does scream that on a big level, unfortunately. So we'll see. But that does it for our week of NAI lacrosse coming up. That more or less does it for our week of NAI lacrosse looking back on. It was a jam-packed week, and it's going to be a jam-packed week again. A lot of important games coming up this week, and we moved closer and closer to playoff season, which is really is fun to see as this kind of develops. Any final thoughts?
It's just been a while.
Any questions? Any Twitter polls?
I guess this isn't really a poll per se or a question, but where we stand as a whole right now, like what would your top four be right now? Top of your head. I'm gonna give you something to think about.
Top four right now. Ambrose, in no specific order. I'll direct that order in a second. Ambrose is in the top four. Reinhardt's in the top four. Kaiser's in the top four.
Indiana.
I'm going to say Indiana Tech, but like Aquinas has also played really well recently. But how we've seen Columbia play in these last couple of games, I'm taking Indiana Tech. So I'm taking in the top four with a lot of close contenders: Ambrose, Tech, Kaiser, Reinhardt. That's four. And I feel comfortable saying that Reinhardt at 1. People are going to hate this. Ambrose at 2. Kaiser at 3. Tech at 4.
Okay, that's very interesting. Very interesting. For those who didn't see mine, I had Ambrose at a pretty decisive 1. I know it's going to come as a shock to people, but they've just been dominant so far. Like I haven't seen any holes in their games where I can say this is where they're going to suffer. I put Reinhardt as 2, and I think them versus Indiana Tech would be a super good game. Like I'm so disappointed that that's not a regular season game it traditionally is. But I mean, that'd be a great game. So I could really see that one going either way. I put Indiana Tech at 3 just because Reinhardt's loss was kind of a double overtime thing, whereas Indiana Tech a little bit more to a very good St. Ambrose team. And then I put Kaiser at 4. I mean, obviously they beat Reinhardt, so they have that. But the way I looked at it was they lost to Lawrence Tech kind of like the next day, and Reinhardt beat Lawrence Tech by 17. So I'm not saying it was a fluke, but like the scores don't add up. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird.
It's true. That's a good point. I think both are healthy top fours, and I think it's clear that those are the top 4 teams right now. That just seems to be kind of a very clear thing at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's about it, guys. We'll see you next Sunday.
See you guys. Stay well, stay healthy, and enjoy some NAI lacrosse.